This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on!
Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode 53. Wade Hampton, Paul Rank, and joining us tonight, Logan from Sin Bin Sweaters. We'll touch on a lot of what Logan collects. As you can see, he has a better setup than my jerseys behind me. He has a fancy boom mic and jerseys in frames. I mean, that heck, we'll just hand the show over to you, Logan. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we got a lot of things to touch on this evening, some different notes. First of all, gentlemen, happy 2-year anniversary. This show launched July 17th, 2022. Only reason I know it's the anniversary, I popped in to get some statistics, and it said, hey, happy anniversary. So I actually had to go back and look. I was traveling last week in Branson. If you like uber touristy and crazy things to see, definitely go to Branson. But yes, 2-year anniversary launched July 17th, 2022. And as we, again, all the support, the comments, how people enjoy listening, even driving into work. When I post them on Thursday night, I know I've had a lot of people reach out Friday morning saying, hey, listen to it driving into the office or whatnot. So we do appreciate all the support. Of course, we can't forget our sponsor, and I do have the puck within reach. Our buddy Milt with Drink Your Face Off. So make sure, Mitch, Jesus, you can tell I'm out of. Milt's got his stuff too, but Mitch, it's about the Drink Your Face Off pucks, the shirts, and we'll touch on it a little bit. The sale that Paul, that you and Mitch did. Look like that a fun one. Another one coming. Holy crap! What a day already. Some of the other things to get into. We have a new-ish expo coming in here in a couple months.
Yeah, October 6th in Minnesota, the Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub show, which is close to XL Center. They finally announced the date for that. That's always looks like a great show. It's one I want to make it out to there one of these years. That's the only new show that we haven't discussed in the past, which we know a date of. I know they're kicking around possible dates for the Southern Cal show, and hopefully we'll have something on that soon. And Nova, if anyone knows the date for Nova, please put it in the comments or message one of us, please.
Yeah, we want to make sure we get those kind of shows out. And if you're planning on putting one out there, or you even have questions, reach out to the guys that do the expos. They will gladly help you out. I saw in the Chicago Game Worn group, somebody posted asking about, is there a Chicago one, or what would it take? And there was a lot of good comments back and forth there. So if you even have an inkling to put one somewhere or thinking about it, reach out to people that have done them. You'll get the positives, the negatives. Nobody's going to slam you for trying to do an expo. Trust me. Some of the auctions around the collecting community, AHL auctions, they have a handful right now. Utica Comets regular season jerseys, they end in 2 days. Coachella Calder Cup finals jerseys, they end in 2 days. And the Syracuse Crunch white regular season ends in 9 days. Migray has a couple auctions up. Nashville Equipment Bags, they have 20 days to go. They were just posted. 23, 24 White Devils Game Worn helmets, 14 days to go there. NHL Auctions has the alumni auction. They have a bunch of different sticks for multiple teams there. They have 3 days to go. And Logan, you were talking about collecting some of the stuff from the Panthers with winning the Stanley Cup. You can currently go to the NHL auctions and bid on the Stanley Cup carpet. When they put that carpet down on the ice, it's up for bid. No bids on it yet, but it is $2,500 starting bid.
A great rug for the office, huh?
Yeah, $2,500. I could carpet half my house in that. That's wow. A little crazy, but it'll sell to somebody. Then there is a few new ones that popped up on Heritage I wanted to touch on. They have got a little mix of things. They have a 73-74 Tony Esposito game-worn jersey, currently at $4,100 with 30 days to go. 13-14 Yammer Yager. I think we talked about that one last time. Currently at 6,500 with 31 days to go. A 1997 Detroit Red Wings Stanley Cup Championship ring came from one of the scouts with 37.50 with 31 days to go. A 70-71 Montreal Mini Stanley Cup trophy that belonged to Bobby Sheehan, currently at 13.50. This is an interesting one. This is fairly new. A 2021 Tampa Bay Lightning Mini Stanley Cup trophy, currently at 2,000. And I'm trying to see who, if it says, I'm assuming it doesn't say who it belonged to. Just has the manufacturer's name and stuff on the bottom, does not say who received that. So kind of an interesting looking piece. Also a 22-23 Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup Championship ring. It was from the Director of Security. Current bid $2,500 with 31 days to go. Scott Stevens jersey still out there. We talked about it last time. It's $1,150 for 91-92 Devils jersey with the 75th patch and the A. So that, I think, is the rundown of all the different auctions.
Don't forget the Babe Ruth cold shot jersey that's at a cool 11 million right now.
Wow, no, I did not. I kind of forgot about that one.
With the buyer's premium, it's I think it's with buyer's premium, it's 13,320,000. And I think they're expecting that to hit 30 million.
Well, if you've got that kind of cash, what's the buyer's premium anyway? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I want to throw that one in there because I do find that terribly interesting. But,
yeah, no, we will definitely keep an eye on it. I appreciate. I just completely forgot we touched on it early on. Couple equipment sales this Saturday. The Sabres sale. If you're not a season ticket holder, not that way, I'm assuming you know about it. But the Sabres on their Facebook page and other places do have links to get tickets to that. Paul, you did say the season ticket holders get it at 11 o'clock. And then Nashville had theirs 5 days ago. And Paul, you had a little info, kind of wrap up info on that one.
On Nashville, not real. I don't think so. At least
I was thinking one of the ones you said you had some more info on.
No, it would be this upcoming Saturday. The San Jose Sharks yet again.
Oh, yes.
Another sidewalk sale. I did not go to Nashville, and I have not heard the reports from it. So
there didn't seem to be a lot on the Nashville group and stuff, and maybe people just don't show off their stuff. There were a handful of comments, and that's fine. If you don't want to show it off, I get it. But I just didn't see anything earth-shattering fines or things like that. I'll be curious to see what the Buffalo sale's like, and if anybody goes this Saturday, reach out to us. I'd love to hear about that afterwards. And it's nice to hear pricing from different teams. We try and get that when we can to see what things sell for around the league, because prices vary extremely. So it's kind of interesting to see what the different teams do. Now, what are the San Jose sale? What all are they doing? Is it more like giveaway stuff, shirts, things like that, or will there be game stuff too?
There'll be, well, how it worked last year, which we're assuming it's going to be about the same this year. It was leftover jerseys from the sale. And I know like there's a number of CUDA jerseys left. I think Logan has a better sense of what was left because there were jerseys out at the draft party. When the draft. Go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, there's a mix of training camp Sharks jerseys and some game used jerseys that still are available. And like Paul mentioned, there's a decent amount of CUDA jerseys still left.
Now, weren't you guys mentioning that they previously had a bunch of jerseys that they hadn't tagged yet? So will those be popping up?
Supposedly about 30% of the Sharks jerseys were not tagged yet. And the last I heard, they were not tagged as of now, and they're not supposed to be there this weekend. Who knows? But we're not taking a chance that they're not going to show up. So, and this sale, it's outdoors, and it's fortunately the weather does not look like it's going to be crazy hot, like it has been for these past sales. So the jerseys will be out. Any sticks and stuff they have left, they tend to come out. And then a lot of just apparel, a lot of shirts, stuff that the store normally sells. So they start discounting that. They always seem to find a few boxes of cool apparel or something. So, it's worthwhile checking out. I know one year Logan found some Indiana sweatshirts, which,
That was fun.
yeah, my
Ow.
guess. Well, and
Yeah.
the SAP had hosted one of the NCAA regionals. And
Okay.
Indiana was out. My understanding is Indiana was out for that, and the sweatshirts or whatever came too late for them to sell there.
That's funny.
So it should be a fun time. It's going to be great seeing everyone. It's noon till 4 at the warehouse location for the Sharks, or the Sharks retail, which is by the SAP parking lot. Season ticket holders get in at 11 a.m. I'm sure we'll see everyone there, and we'll head over to the poorhouse for a few beers.
Or many beers.
Yeah, if possible. Yes.
Let's see. Oh, one other thing. I said last show I'd try to do it every show. Of course, you always see me with my old fashioned of the week. This week, drinking and finished the bottle of Chris Pronger's Journey. I know there's scattered places now around U.S. and Canada to get it, but him and his brother Sean put it out. I'm not normally a fan of Canadian whiskey. I was really impressed with this. So, very happy to empty a bottle. It is very reasonably priced. I pick it up down by St. Louis for, I think, $27 a bottle, which in whiskeys and bourbons is pretty good, especially for good tasting stuff. Like, I don't go after ones with names on it. I tried it and liked it, and very happy. So I wanted to continue that, but did empty that bottle completely. But luckily, I have another one in the liquor cabinet. All right. One of the whole reasons we're here, just besides just normally talking hockey and that. And actually, I'm sorry, I need to add one more small thing before we get into it with you, Logan. If you're bidding on jerseys, be it whatever platform it is, if you've got a little time, do a little bit of research before. Look at things, and some people don't care. I always like to see what the stats are, especially if I know when the jerseys were worn. I happened to pick one up from the Blues at an auction the other day, and luckily for me, they put the initial text out 5 days prior, Wade, and never sent another text reminder. So prices were stupid low on a lot of jerseys, and I was able to pick up a Justin Falk with the A, and I know a lot of people don't like him. He's not played the best, but for $275 for a good defenseman who's just shy of 1,000 games, he got 100 games left to play. But I was looking at pictures before I bid, trying to see if there's any marks, and he was standing up. They did Nick Leddy's 1,000th game at the Blues game, and him and the other guys were up there with him on the platform, and that jersey's in the photo. I mean, not that it means a whole lot, but it's cool when there's other special things done in that jersey. It's just thought it was kind of a cool find. So if you've got time when you're bidding on stuff like that, go to Getty and go look at other places to see if any oddball things happen. I bought some other ones where the photographer happened to be in a locker room, and those pictures ended up on Getty, and you can see the jersey hanging in the background before the players put it on, things like that. So do some of that if you've got time. It makes it more fun. And again, if you don't care and just want to buy the jersey regardless, go for it. And you do have, Paul, said you have a Sabres update. Breaking news.
Yeah, this actually just came into me. Description for the Sabre sale on Saturday. And I'll read this, and there's a couple noticeable things missing. Gently used hockey equipment and apparel from the Buffalo Sabres and Rochester Americans will be available while supplies last. Items included will be Buffalo Sabres and nothing more on. Oh, maybe this is just. Okay, sorry. The formatting screwed up. From the Buffalo Sabres, Sabres practice jerseys, sticks, gloves, skates, pants, goalie pads, goalie gloves, tees, hoodies, skate bags, skate soakers. If you guys saw the photos earlier, it looks like they have a lot of skates and a lot of sticks. Absent from that list, I noticed no helmets and no game jerseys. And then continuing on with it from the Rochester Americans, gloves, pants, sticks, skate hoodies. That doesn't make sense. Skate bags, skate soakers, helmet bags, and the ever popular more. So that's the update for this Saturday. Sounds like no helmets, no game jerseys, unless they fall into the more category. So
You think those would be at the top of the list, but I've seen teams completely skip that, and you show up, and yeah, there's a huge amount of them. So, and if with your sidewalk shark sale, if any nice Devin Cooley game use related stuff shows up, let me know. Cheap, since he played here in Springfield for a touch. So, all right, now we'll get into it. Logan, we'll start with how did you get into collecting?
That's a great question.
Why is your page, your stuff called Sin Bin Sweaters?
Sure. So I got into collecting actually really as a kid. My dad had a collection of autographed jerseys from various sports, football, basketball, not a lot of hockey actually, but football, basketball, baseball, some racing stuff. I grew up a lot of racing in Indianapolis. And then I moved from Indiana to San Jose in 2018, and I went to my first Sharks game on October 18th of that same year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And I fell in love with it. I maybe ended up missing about 5 to 6 games the rest of that season. Went to every playoff game, and since I started collecting, I think it was maybe February 14th of 2019, the Sharks had started having warm-up pucks. And that's how the collection kind of started with hockey. And I started getting a puck from every game that I went to. And even during COVID, went back and found pucks that I was missing. So I have a puck from every game, Sharks game that I've been to. And Sin Bin Sweaters, it was kind of born out of boredom with COVID. My collection started to grow, and I did not have enough space to display it all. And I love getting photo matches or including other information along with it. And the easiest way for me to do that was by creating a website. And the name, just trying to think of something creative, something that kind of rolls off the tongue. And that's Sin Bin Sweaters is where I landed.
And a fantastic name, and you're right, because even when we were launching the podcast, I was talking to Wade about it. We spitballed a bunch of names back and forth even for that, because you want to do something hobby related, hockey related, and it's not actually easy, because so much of that stuff has been taken already by people doing podcasts or websites or Facebook pages or whatever the hell it is. So as you started getting into pucks and things like that, were you aware of the game worn jersey market?
Not hockey wise, no. I was not aware of it at all. I kind of knew about some baseball market stuff. In fact, when I was a real young kid, I went to a Cardinals game and bought a pair of Lance Lynn game used pants that were autographed. Yeah, and thought that was really cool. So I knew a little bit. I knew it was out there. But when I started collecting pucks, I was not aware near the size of the hockey hobby and how you got them, went about collecting them, and all that stuff. So it was something that I kind of got into slowly. I was introduced, I think, mostly through Facebook groups, and if I remember correctly, my first Sharks game used jersey actually came from Paul. Through
hopefully it's a good one.
It was an all-star patch San Jose Sharks jersey, Tim Heed. But the patch was something I didn't have. I thought it was cool, and I actually was lucky enough to go to those festivities when they were here in San Jose. So that jersey meant a lot to me.
That's awesome. And that's how a lot of people seem to get, especially with either a particular focus or or patch or things like that is you were there part of it, so it gives you that tighter connection. And going back a minute too, you mentioned the warm-up pucks. That and the rather date time you gave that year, that's around the time that those really seem to blow up with teams. And across the hobby or other pages I follow, that would be the big thing. Even if people weren't in the city for that team, they reach out to have somebody buy them a warm-up puck, and those things have gone nuts. I will say though, they seem to have, at least in the last maybe a couple seasons, kind of dropped back off again, and I'm not sure why. Some teams I know still do it, but a lot of teams seem to kind of gotten away from it, unless it's a special event.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I could speak to other teams, but I know the Sharks, even while they've not been the best team, still have a decent amount of people hopping in line, waiting sometimes hours for the warm up pucks.
But it's a cheaper. I mean, compared to jerseys, it's sure as hell a cheaper collectible.
It's a great collectible, yeah. And, especially when you have the dates and having the each team's logo on it. It's a very affordable memory to a lot of people, and an easy way to gateway yourself into collecting more.
Yeah, an expensive habit. It's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
So, looking at for those listening on the audio podcast can't see the Logan's background here. You have a smattering of multiple jerseys hanging in frames. You have Tkachuk from all over the place, the different Tkachuk family members. You got the Blues, you have Ottawa, you have Florida. I see some San Jose on the side, and looks like some other teams in there. You got started with San Jose. What made you branch out?
So mostly it really just is sentimental. So the majority of my collection, probably say 80%, is all based off of things that I've attended. And so like either attended or maybe like with Keith Kachuk, I got lucky enough to meet him at the 2023 All-Star festivities. And so it's just kind of evolved into mostly kind of Panthers and then Kachuk family, and then a couple one-off things where my girlfriend and we made a road trip during COVID to Arizona because there were no fans allowed at SAP Center. We had to go to Arizona to see the Sharks live in person, and so I grabbed a couple of Arizona Coyotes jerseys that were worn in those games that we took a road trip for. And so that's kind of how my collection started branching out to other teams.
And that's a cool thing, because it like you said before, it is that personal connection. It's not just that you like the Kachuk family. It's you connected with him. You lived for a bit in St. Louis, so you know him from there, and then watching his sons just take over the league now is insane.
Yeah, and I got lucky enough actually to meet both Matthew and Brady at a Cardinals game.
Oh, nice.
And so it was about a month after Matthew was traded. They were at a Cardinals game, section over from me, and I think it's about the seventh inning or so. I had a baseball with me, walked around and asked if they could sign it for me, and Matthew talked to me for a few minutes. Super nice, personalized it. It was an awesome memory. And my family actually had moved to Florida, my dad and my youngest brother. And so right about that time, then it was like, well, hey, the next time in town, let's go to a Panthers game. And so then that's kind of how the Panthers collection took off.
And we encourage, when we talk about new people coming to the hobby and things, or giving advice to people, it's find some kind of focus, be it just that team, be it if you like a particular player, some reason, because otherwise it can get overwhelming. And I love your focus, because it is much more of a personal connection, and not just because, or he's a hot player, I want to get his stuff. I love that, because it's somewhat outside the normal way to go, I think.
Yeah, when you do want to collect some of those hot players, with having the focus that I have, it actually becomes a little difficult because maybe that player or that item that you're looking at, it didn't happen for me because I wasn't there or something like that, and it kind of draws the line. It helps save me a little bit of money, but it also then makes finding those items tagged to those players a little more difficult to find because you're hoping that it happens at the game you go to or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And when you're outside the market, as we've talked many times, it is harder to get stuff, or you've got to have connections there to grab and pick up for you, which again, a lot of us collectors around the hobby where we're at do try and do that for each other is, hey, I don't have an interest in this guy, or I'll keep an eye out and pick up the phone and say, hey, it's here. Do you want it? And get it bought. That's part of helping everything out. So you've got a good collection there from what I can see in the pictures. What's a couple of your favorite and or unique pieces?
So I'll start with I guess the unique piece. And it's actually been mentioned on the podcast at the Sharks equipment sale after the 22 to 23 season, digging through some trash bins of player socks. I found Erik Karlsson's laundry bag, and it was filled with his undershirts, shorts, socks, and other personal effects. So that was probably the weirdest thing that I have, or most unique. Um,
Now, please tell me you
it's-
framed all those pieces together. That'd be hilarious. Did a
yeah,
Carlson background and framed them all?
it'd be a rather large frame, but yeah, that was a weird one, and it was sold to me, and it's a fun story to talk about, fun thing to kind of get a couple laughs. But then I'd say as far as my favorite, it's pretty difficult. But I'd say the jersey behind me, actually, Joe Thornton. I photo matched that jersey to the on ice tribute that they had here at San Jose at SAP Center for him when he came back to the team. So that was pretty neat. But I also photo matched it to the handshake line of Game 4, Panthers versus Lightning. So it's actually Joe Thornton's last ever NHL jersey.
Wow. And that's why we go hunting across Getty or other places to find that, because there isn't any more, and it probably wasn't sold that way.
Oh no, it was not. It was definitely not. And in fact, the person who helped me, neither of us knew until I got it in my hands, what it was. And I'm very thankful for the help that I received in getting that. You kind of get a couple pictures when someone's helping you out. And so I did know immediately that it was used here in San Jose. But it did take a little bit of time going through the different photo matching photo websites, trying to find the right photo that displayed that mark across the side, and got lucky and found it.
And it's the connection again, is it's not just a jersey now, it has its very specific connections. And I have talked to some hobbyists that don't care if they photo match their stuff or not, and I'm I guess a little surprised by that. And you know what, to each their own, but I think that's part of the hunt, or part of the journey with the jersey is doing the research. And I bought stuff from people that kind of researched it, but not enough, and then found a whole many more things that I thought either brought the value up or at least made it more interesting. And then speaking of the Kachuk stuff, you do have Keith Kachuk's jersey back there. You were able to tie that to some special stuff too.
Yeah, got very lucky on that jersey. It was in a Blues auction, and I got it. They actually had a pretty decent set of photos of the jersey in the auction, and so I was able to see a couple photo matches before I placed my bids. So I was pretty thrilled. As you stated, photo matching is very important to me. I think it really helps tell the story behind the jersey, and also gives you peace of mind that you know for sure it was worn. But when I got that jersey, after a week or so of it being shipped out to San Jose, I was able to find that it was photo matched to him scoring his 500th career goal, which at the time he was then, I think it was the third U.S. born player to score 500 goals in NHL.
Wow. And it's funny how many times, especially even in the Blues, and Wade can attest to this also, is we've found specialty either hitting certain goal marks or game marks or things like that, and they end up for sale. And the team doesn't realize it because it's not listed that way. And then you go to looking at it and find these have more importance than maybe if the team knew that they were that important, they wouldn't have been sold.
Yeah, wouldn't have been sold or would have went for a lot more money.
Right. Either one. Uh, Wade or Paul, have you got questions for Logan before we get into some other stuff?
Well, one thing I'm a little bit curious about, we always talk about photo matching a lot with you. What's some of your favorite sources? Do you stick with Getty or do you branch out to other sources?
That's a great question. Yeah. Getty is easily the primary source of a lot of this stuff. But sometimes Getty just doesn't have a lot of photos of a particular game, or they just don't have the photo that you're looking for. And so I kind of spread out across AP Images. So I use that, USA Today Images. And then there's a couple other ones, but it's actually recently I've really started to try and use X or Twitter through team channels. I found a lot of good images that way, and they're a lot higher resolution too than what you'd get from Getty or some of the other sources, and then Instagram as well. And what's neat is with Instagram, you can actually go through both a player's posts, the team's posts, and then also the posts that those players or teams are tagged in. And so you can even kind of source some fan photos that somebody may have posted and tagged then the team or the player in, and find some good matches that way too.
Very nice. And have you contacted any of the photographers or anything to try to get additional photos? Yes.
I haven't. Actually, no. I think I did once. And that did not end up working out. But I have in the past, and I'm working on doing this next year as well, is taking my own photos. If I'm lucky enough to sit close enough to the ice, the last couple of years I've had an iPhone, and if something happens and I'm like, I think I want to know or find that jersey later, I try my best to capture my own photos of the player wearing the jersey, and close enough that I can find either that mark on the jersey or that thread that's indistinguishable, or whatnot. And then next year, I actually will have my own kind of better than the iPhone camera that I'm hoping to get into games with, so I can see what sort of matches I can get taking photos that way.
Well, and what you do is you try and you get a season ticket right on the tunnel, and as the guys come out and say, "Hey, turn around, can I get a front and back of the jersey?"
Exactly.
You just document it that way.
I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem doing that.
If we could get all the fans from all the teams to do that, imagine the documentation we'd have, and how crazy they'd all think we are. So, I mean, we've covered a lot with your background. What other stuff do you track a lot of different things in the hobby?
Yeah. I mean, I try and keep well updated on what's going on. I think I'm in most or all of the different teams groups, even though I don't collect all of them. I try and at least from time to time check in, see what's going on. I always find it interesting what other teams have available out there, what their pricing is, and kind of compare it to some of the other teams that I like to collect. I check NHL auctions way too often. And in Migrate, I stay up to date with them. They tend to have some puck auctions that go well into the off season, and so it's kind of fun to see what ends up popping up there. Yeah, and then I kind of branch out, and I'm very much when the hockey season ends, it turns into to baseball season for me.
And I've heard a few other collectors that way. I can't do it personally because baseball's just too slow. I need the fast paced stuff. And now, do you have many game worn baseball jerseys?
I do have a few game worn jerseys for baseball. Not I haven't gotten quite into the jerseys like I have for hockey with baseball, but I do have a lot of baseballs themselves.
Yeah, that looks like a very small shot of probably a much larger wall.
Yes, I have sometimes multiple, but at least one baseball from each game that I've gone to probably since like 2019 or so.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot, but it's fun. It's just like I said, I was there, this happened, or sometimes it's just I was there and I wanted to get a ball from the game, and sometimes I have the opportunity to get something a bit historic.
And you get those because I think I understand how this works, at least from the Cardinals' perspective. That's all authenticated through MLB, and then you buy those like near the end of the game. Is that how that normally works?
Yeah,
Or
so yeah, it would varies, but the most often teams will have some day of game or baseballs available, typically around maybe the sixth, seventh, or eighth inning, and they'll then have balls from the previous game. Maybe those fifth through ninth inning baseballs then show up the next day.
Okay, interesting. Um, I mean,
It's and it's
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to hint. It's fun to watch. The baseballs get authenticated. Each stadium's a little bit different, but once you've kind of visited a stadium enough, you kind of get to see the process of what it takes for a baseball to be authenticated. And for instance, I talk about wanting to have photo matches. Something I did with baseball. I actually occasionally will take a video of an at bat that I might want to get a baseball from. So if it's a player that I don't have in my collection or just a player that I like, I'll try and record their entire at bat, and then I'll have a video of possibly the baseball that I'll get. And that helped out actually. One game we had Zach Geloff hit a double, and then Seth Brown hit a triple right after it. And I actually had a recording of both of those at bats because I wanted that Zach double, and I just kept recording until I saw the ball go out of play. And later on, I went to the stand, and they only had the ball marked as the Seth Brown triple, which actually saved me a lot of money. I got the baseball, but went back and rewatched the video I'd taken. I'm like, no, this for sure. This is the double too. And actually was able to email Major League Baseball. I sent them the video. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, they were able to also determine on their end that it was in fact the double and triple. And they went back and updated the authentication information on their end.
Wow, because is a sticker with a number, and then it's the codes online, similar like what Fanatics does with some of their hockey stuff. Isn't that correct?
Very similar, yeah. And it's a very long digit code, but also then the newest sticker for baseball and for Fanatics, it has the 3-letter hologram that sometimes is difficult to see. You got to really find the right lighting.
But I guess. Was MLB surprised when you reached out and said, "You guys are wrong. Here's my proof"?
It was through email, so it was hard to tell if they were surprised or if it was something that they had encountered before. But they did, take their time. A couple times I checked in and said, "No, we're still investigating." But I think the last email I sent, they said, we're still investigating. We'll get back to you. And within a couple days after that last email I sent, they replied back, confirmed that they had confirmed that it was the correct authentication that I was saying, and they updated it, and I was thrilled. Happy to have the ball that I wanted, but also happy that they were able to also confirm and then were willing to do that for me.
Well, and luckily you shot that long video to just go, here's the proof.
Yeah.
Now hire me as a side job. I'll video more.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That'd be fun.
But no, that's awesome that you've got such a wide ranging collection and why you do it. It's cool to hear not just, oh, I like this team or I'm in this area or followed this team, but it's because you've gone, because you made a connection with a player or the player's dad and different things like that. And it's just cool to see all the different reasons of why we do it, because we all have specific reasons why we decide, yep, I'm going to buy that jersey, or I'm going to go after that player, or I'm going to do this thing. And that's what makes the hobby fun. And I'm glad we can share these kind of stories, because it I think also helps some of the new collectors, because you've really not been collecting that long compared to the other three of us here.
Yeah.
We've been around the block a few times, and I guess you being still, you've got a great collection, but still being a new collector, how do you, when you first came in, do you feel like you were welcomed, or did you have a hard time kind of grasping of how all this worked?
I'd say both. It's a lot to take in. Especially when um, you don't really know where to start. But I think for the most part, pretty well welcomed. Fairly teased sometimes. But I think
That's Paul
what's been
shaking his
fun.
head. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. What's been fun about it is that really, not being from San Jose, I quickly got into this hobby shortly after moving here, and it helped me kind of find a home and a set of friends that I could relate to and rely on.
Yeah.
And really, I talk about teasing. I'm going to give a shout out to Mitch. When I first started collecting jerseys, I was using the bedding as a backdrop for my photos to post. And and it's funny enough, he'd then comment nice bedding or nice sheets or what have you, and so that evolved. That's how my photos got better and better, and really I appreciate him for doing that. It actually helped me take some better photos and get to the presentation that I have today.
And that's the stuff is we have, once you start making those connections and just having fun with it, it makes it enjoyable, and you do feel welcome. I think for his next birthday, you just need to buy him a set of like some kind of child sheets and mail them to him. Nice, yeah.
I love Mitch. He's been awesome. Paul as well, of course, but Mitch is not here, so I'll speak a bit higher of him while he's not able to
No,
represent
we
himself.
tried to do it the other way.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so just Mitch, Paul, some of the other local collectors have just been awesome, and not only helping me understand maybe what's important in my collection, but also then knowing that, hey, if they know what I collect, what they collect, and we work together to kind of do our best. As difficult as it is sometimes, being a hobby of one of ones, we all still try and do our best to make one another as happy as we can.
We can't own it all, and none of us have the budget to own it all. At least most of us collectors, I think. What are some other things you want to touch on? We've covered a lot of stuff, asked you a lot of questions. What are other topics or things in the hobby that you want to mention?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think we were talking about authentication. And so one of the other things that was interesting that, it's always evolving. Who has what, and the Sharks, when I first started collecting, were ran by Fanatics, and so they had their own authentication stickers, and that then transitioned to Airmark. And when companies transition, things kind of end up getting lost in the shuffle, and one of those things ended up being the 2019 to 2020 pucks that the Sharks had. And as part of my collection, I try and keep track of a spreadsheet of everything that I have, and I check the authentication. And in that spreadsheet trying to include this stuff, and it actually came out that the pucks that I had from that last season were not in the database. And actually, most of the pucks that I've come across from other people who collect, they also do not have their pucks in the system for that season, unfortunately. But I was able to reach out to Fanatics actually even long after they were no longer associated with the Sharks directly, and was able to work it out with them that I was able to kind of send them some examples, send them my spreadsheet with the different descriptions and the tags and stuff, and they were actually able to go back and input that in the system for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't help just you for your peace of mind of what you own, but for anybody that owns pucks from them.
Yeah, so it was obviously disappointing that they weren't there in the first place, but things happen when businesses leave, come and go, and so for them to be willing to go back and do that, it was awesome. And like you said, yeah, it gave me a lot of peace of mind. And so I if you have a Sharks puck from the 2019 to 2020 season and you don't see it in the database, don't be surprised. Reach out to their customer service and hopefully they can help you out as well.
Or they'll give you Logan's phone number and he'll tell you what it is.
Did they have any of this on paper? Like when you reached out to them, and I assume you're saying I have this gold puck and this is the number on it. Did they have any way to verify?
That's a great question. They didn't. They weren't. They didn't share what they had on their end, information wise. But I was very, open. I had the pictures all on my website. I had my spreadsheet, so I had a lot of information that I sent to them, but I'm not sure what they used on their end to verify it, and if it was the photos or if they had maybe a spreadsheet that just didn't ever make it. I'm not exactly sure.
My hope is that they do have some sort of spreadsheet, and I can eventually some year get in with enough pressure. But
and I mean, look how often Paul and Wade, you're more familiar with this, I think, than Logan is. But look how often it's happened over the years when somebody, a team or somebody else, starts tagging jerseys with numbers. The database gets built, and then that person leaves, or that person passes away, or you switch companies, and all of that's wiped out. And then that information, I mean, you hope most of the older stuff, I think, still has paper LOAs, and we've talked about how good or how bad those are, but how much information is just lost.
Yeah. There's so much of it. Like you look at like the sports registry, we were kind of looking at the heritage stuff, and one of the jerseys in that was, and it would be a pretty big jersey, is that they have a Scott Stevens Devils jersey, and it's got a sports registry tag out on there. And I couldn't help but look at that and not wonder how many people probably don't even have an idea what that is. And then that jersey also is tagged from Massachusetts, from man, I'm totally losing my mind tonight. Custom crafted. Thank you. Jeez. So normally some of that custom crafted stuff in that era has some issues, but the sports registry in that is a pretty solid add-on to that, but again, that database is long gone. So, a lot of new collectors probably don't even know what that is.
And Wade, you and I have talked about with some of what the Blues have done with the first sets for the last couple of years, where it's just been the barcode and no set stamp. The one I got today, of course, was set 3, had a set stamp in it. But if that sticker falls off, what the hell are you supposed to do? Or we've documented the preseason ones where they were just blowing out the non-prime green ones, wore them, no certificates, no tags, and people bought them. Well, if you want to move them, we've documented a lot of them because you and I own several each and have been able to photo match a lot of them. But
the problem there was racks of those. And so, in the long run, it's kind of a lost thing because those were sold with no LOAs, no tagging, no sticker, no nothing. So, I mean, how many of those got sold to non-collectors or non-hobbyists? They threw it on at that game when they picked it up for $250 or $400 or whatever they were for some of the star players, and are now probably lost to the hobby because they're gone. And then secondarily, those people are going to say, if it's not somebody in the hobby, who's going to say, oh yeah, that one, that's good.
Why isn't there a set stamp there?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, And we've had that discussion with the Blues. Now the Blues have the barcode reader in them, but like the laziness of not putting in the set tag is, and I'm a dead horse on this, but there's so many ways they could do other things. It's so frustrating,
Well, and Logan, it goes back to you too with those pucks. If let's say somebody finds one on eBay or whatever else, and it's got that barcode, the code on it, and they go to run it, and it says not found. Well, are they gonna? Right. Are they going to go bitch at the seller again? Well, you fake this, or what's the story here? If the seller's not disclosed it, you could have a lot of pissed off people because they expect. I mean, you see it, God, with everything now is go here to check out this, see the online certificate and see if this is authentic. And if it's not there, that now makes people wonder, is it real?
The biggest thing in our hobby is unless it's a major brand or company, and even in some of those cases, it doesn't matter. There's shelf lives for every level of authentication, and that's really something people don't think about. I worked in the authentication world with, the autographs and that stuff, and luckily there hasn't been a big turnover in those brands. But in the same sense, there have been some brands that turned over. When you think about autographs, the funny part is like Global is a brand that people associate poorly with autographs, but people don't realize is early on they were actually not bad. And then the funny part was they were like the official authenticator of some of the shows in Chantilly for a couple years. So there's some really good vintage football Hall of Fame stuff that has Global stuff on it that's actually good, but people are scared of the sticker, which they were the official authenticator of those shows, and they had huge signers and a lot of early football Hall of Fame guys that have died since. But I think that goes back to what I'm trying to say here is the shelf life for all of these types of authentication change so frequently that unless you're in the know, and like Logan said, if Logan didn't have the resource of Paul or Mitch or some of those things to learn about some of that stuff that came before his entry to the hobby, for the Blues, we've got guys like Ken and some of these other guys that are fantastic, knowledgeable people. Chris Grissom, there's a lot of guys that we all lean on for, and we all lean on each other for, hey, do you remember how this or why this is tagged this way? And there's so many different, like guys around the world that are big for that. You can throw your shout out to, to Milt and some of those other guys who are super knowledgeable about tagging. And, but all these things have a shelf life, and that's just a fact of the hobby.
Yeah, so, it really.
Go ahead, Logan.
It just really does you well to have friends in this hobby. And Paul actually was one of the first ones that told me about the wash tags in jerseys, to look at those, to see, when you're looking at a jersey that doesn't have a ton of wear and you're looking for those little hints of was it maybe not, maybe so worn. That was something that he had pointed out to me earlier. And really, I guess the saying that always gets brought up was do your homework. So that when the authentication's bad, or when maybe there isn't an LOA or COA, having those friends and those connections that can assist you in doing your homework really pays off.
Sure. I mean, look at Fanatics right now. They've obviously changed the way they're branding their stickers, and the stickers. You've got the situation where the ones that didn't pop up are there. And then who's not to say that as those brands continue to grow that they don't shut down servers or take stuff off. I mean, I always it's a matter of time until you're required to do your homework and figure it out maybe a little bit beyond just what's presented to you.
Yeah. Well, and there's I'm not sure that this has been discussed here or not, but there's the situation with sometimes the playoff pucks or warm-up pucks that teams will purchase a very large amount of warm-up pucks, but the NHL only allows 100 on the ice at a time. And so sometimes fans don't care about the wear. They just care about the puck and the logo and the date and the experience of getting a souvenir puck And then there's others like myself who I'm like, no, I really want the one that was used. So sometimes it's digging all the way to the bottom of the bucket to make sure I find the one with a nice mark on it or something like that. Yeah.
But it that stuff, and again, we know a lot of teams don't give a damn, but at least disclose it. These here are, like you said, are just fan pucks. They look the same. They were not on ice used, $25. On ice used, 40, whatever they charge. But at least just put a sign up that differentiates the two. Because guess what? All the ones you got brought are usually wet and marked up. The other ones are room temperature, not usually too hard to tell.
Yeah. There's some tricks out there of teams though that sometimes will put those non-used pucks next to the cold ones, so that those non-used end up being a little cold too and wet. But I'll at least praise the Sharks in that when they do have those extra warm-up pucks, they do separate them by the stands that they sell them at. So there's at least some differentiation there. Now, not everybody picks up on it, but at least the collectors that really do care about the used puck know that they are for sure getting what they are going for.
That's awesome. Definitely kudos to them to at least being, and that might be Paul yelling at him on a phone going, "You've got to do it this way."
Well, my issue still with it is, since they're the same pucks, some are used, some aren't. When they're in your collection, you know what you have.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're buying in the secondary market, it's really tough to know. Was it used? In the warm-ups, if it's scuffed up, was it used for pickup somewhere else and then put in there? For warm-up pucks, there's no good way of telling. And honestly, the warm-up pucks Logan has, they're worth more to him than anyone else, because that's his association, his memory to that game. He knows they're legit and stuff. But for others, like, if I want to look for a warm-up puck from a 2021 Red Wings game, I have no guarantee, unless I know the person I'm buying that it was actually used there. And that's one of my concerns with that aspect of pucks.
And most teams, for what they're selling them for, they're not going to attach a sticker or LOA to them unless you get into the cup finals and things like that. I know it changes at that level, but normal games, they don't want to go through all that headache, and I don't blame them for that.
Well, that adds a level of difficulty too, especially if you're trying to get the pucks out as quickly as possible. Which is, I'm lucky enough with the Sharks that, if I'm first in line or second or third with Mitch and Danielle hanging out, at the stand there, typically we can still get a puck and make it for puck drop to our seats if we hustle enough.
Well, and what you do is you yell to the beer man to get Mitch a beer so you can get in front of him in line and get done quicker. There's ways to get this done, Logan.
Yeah.
Even from the Midwest.
Coors Light does the trick. Yeah.
They already have it all worked out in the line. They have drinks delivered to them. Or them up, so it's like
we take turns going and grabbing for each other. Yeah.
God, we've got to get Logan, both you and Mitch, to St. Louis, especially do it for a game, just so Mitch can try and order a Coors Light at the Blues Arena and watch everybody go, what the hell is he ordering that for in the home of Bud and Bud Light? Yeah, by the way, I drink the same, so don't feel bad. I can't stand Bud Light stuff, but that's just me. With you still being younger, call it younger, you're very well experienced in the hobby already. What things would you like to see happen in the hobby, or changes that might either make it better or just, I guess, things that you'd like to see happen?
That is a great question, and it's not something I've really given a lot of thought to. I think being on the younger side, I've done my best to not shake the tree too much, and do my best to kind of soak up as much information from others as possible without stepping on toes, and for lack of a better phrase, respecting my elders. You know, and I think a lot of that, for younger collectors is the easiest route, is a path of least resistance to take. But I do know that sometimes young collectors might ask a dumb question, and maybe it is as fun as it might be to dunk or or what have you. It may be easier to just respond and really try and welcome these people. As best we can. The more the hobby grows, the better it is for all of us. And so but I enjoy it the way it is for me. Everybody's been very welcoming to me. And sometimes you'll have maybe conflicts online, but then you end up meeting these people in person and they are awesome. Right. And I think trying to take a step back, sometimes a lot of this hobby is online in the Facebook groups and whatnot for me. So trying to think about the person that's on the other side is also a human, and trying to be just as friendly and welcoming online as you would be in person, and it goes a long way.
And I mean, it sounds weird, but you're the future. The three of us are all getting older, and I mean, who knows? Hopefully, we'll all be around still a long time. But you guys as younger collectors coming in, you still got a long road ahead. I hate to say it, Paul and Wade, on the call it the downswing, more or less, just because of age, nothing else. But you do have to think about that. Is we as elders, and again, I just turned 46 last week, so it's not like that's old, but you kind of look at that, and we've seen the handoff years ago from some of the guys that have either moved on or unfortunately passed away, things like that, and it just keeps getting handed off to those younger guys, and we continue to hope that the hobby stays in good hands.
Yeah, I think I've heard some guys make the comment that they're just the keepers of the stuff they have, and I think that becomes pretty true. I mean, at the end of the day, like, beyond my collection, and we've talked about this with people, beyond my collection, like, I don't have anybody who wants this stuff, in my family, or like, anybody who's, and you hear that from a lot of collectors of a lot of different things, where I've talked to a lot of collectors who say, like, well, my kids don't care about this stuff. It's not their thing or whatever. So at some level, this stuff does become somebody else's at some point, it's the reality of it. But I think it is important. I think, Doc, you hit on something pretty special there, that, it is important for us to welcome new people into the hobby and make sure that we're passing on information and knowledge. And I know sometimes I can be a jerk, but I guess sometimes you got to figure out a way to be nice to people. I have my moments, but it's a good thought for these younger guys and the new guys in the hobby. Treat people with kindness.
I mean, absolutely. I remember from the old forum days, and Paul and I think and Wade, you guys were both in that. I believe. I know Paul was for sure. But even when I came in and first found that forum and asked questions and reached out, I remember guys, and some of which I'm still friends with to this day, that helped answer the questions or gave direction on what to look for, or this is kind of the price you'll be in, and things like that. And you remember that. You also do remember the guys that blew you off or treated you like crap or whatnot. And a lot of those don't exist in the hobby anymore, because you can only be an ass for so long before nobody will deal with you or nobody will put up with you, and you disappear. So we want this hobby to continue to grow, and we beat the drum on it a lot, because the jerseys still are secondary. Yeah, that's what brings us together, but it's this podcast, it's these expos, it's random Facebook messaging, not just, hey, what'd you pick up this week? Or look what I got. It's what you been up to. Hey, I'm traveling in your area. I want to stop by and see you. All those things. I mean, you can have a hobby and you're the only one, never interact with anybody else, but this hobby makes it fun and gives us a lot of advantages to to get together, even use technology like this to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll go. I mean, we talk about this frequently. As Logan and everyone else has mentioned, a lot of this hobby is online. Best thing you can do, get out to an expo, start meeting people.
Mhm.
When we did the San Jose one, Logan was one of the ones who helped us host it. And I think that if I recall correctly, I think that was your first expo you attended.
That was my first expo in San Jose and anywhere else. Actually, it was a blast.
And you got to put a lot of names with the faces and actually see the real interactions with these people, because some it's different at times online, and that's why we keep pushing the expos on this. That's why we're doing the October show in St. Louis and then the Frozen 4 one.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't been to an expo, viewers, do it. If you're on the fence, do it. If it's close, if it's a little far, do it. You will not regret it.
I mean, depending on what airline and where you're flying into, you can get some cheap flights. Just try not to do it around when IT companies crash almost all the airlines. but hey, Southwest, Paul, if it had happened during the October Expo, you just still got into St. Louis just fine, since Southwest was okay.
Yeah, I saw one of their fake Twitter posts. They're making fun, basically commenting that everything they have runs on a Commodore 64. And they made fun of that before, and look at us now. So
as somebody in IT who was very happy to be on vacation last Friday, that it was nice to just come and clean up the last little mess from that CrowdStrike stuff. But no, get out there. And again, if you're isolated away from any of these expos and you don't have the ability, start one. There's got to be some other collectors semi nearby, or reach out and say, hey, I know you're 3 or 4 hours away. I'm wanting to put this together. Will you be willing to come out? Even if it's 5 collectors, it doesn't have to be 50 tables. Get a room in the back of a bar or a VFW hall or whatever. It doesn't take a lot. Hell, it could be at somebody's house if it's small enough, but just get that interaction outside of social media and stuff, because you'll connect and you'll share a beer or whatever and tell stories and be able to touch jerseys and all that. And it just makes it such a blast. Logan, anything else you want to, we've covered even more. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Thank you for having me. I've been listening to, I think I've listened to every podcast that you guys have done. So I appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast, and look forward to listening more in the future.
Definitely want to have you back on. Your knowledge in the areas you have, and even though you're primarily buying for a team that sucks, hopefully they'll get better. At a young age, you're learning disappointment early.
I was spoiled though with the first season. They made it to the Western Conference. They were taken out by the Blues, but at least early I got a small taste of winning. So now I'm hooked. I'm looking for that next good team, next good run.
Hopefully, he is wearing a Panthers jersey, so I mean he's got a little bit of winning in it.
I got a little bit. Yeah, I got a dose. Yeah.
Let's go with Paul. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just a couple things. One thing that Logan mentioned, and it always reminds him of my favorite South Park quote: "There are no dumb questions, only dumb people." So
yes.
Just throw that out there. It's sorry, I can't refrain myself when that happens.
No, you're 100% correct. I should use that at work more often.
Yes, and yeah, it doesn't always go over as well as you want it to. So you got to clarify it's from South Park, and you're not being a total jerk. One thing which we didn't cover on the show tonight, wanted to mention, this past weekend, Mitch and I did a small show, for lack of a better term, about his up in San Carlos. And we had some training camp jerseys out, a couple authentics. Logan brought a jersey there. We had, and then a lot of like bobbleheads and just collectibles or whatever you want to call them from the Sharks. And that was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of new people who aren't really in the hobby but are interested in Shark stuff. So it was great seeing everyone there. And the reason why I bring it up now, we're going to be doing the same thing on Sunday, August 11th at the Poorhouse Bistro from 2 to 7. So we'll start getting the word out around the Bay Area. I know Logan will be there, and and Mitch, even though it's on a Sunday, he can still have a few Coors Light, and we'll get him home. So,
but of course he has.
Yes. So just want to throw that out there, and we'll mention it again on an upcoming show for August 11th.
Many more plugs. Poorhouse Bistro is going to have to become an official sponsor too of the Dirty Laundry Game Worn Hockey podcast.
They've been awfully good to us. I mean, they helped us host a number of shows at the studio at well below market rate. What we're chipping in there. So, we'll see if we can do some sort of sponsorship for the show.
There we go. Wade, you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it all show. You kind of mentioned, 50.
Maybe it's just gas.
Yeah, 53 episodes, 2 years. I kind of wanted to say thanks to anybody and everybody who's listened and everybody who has contributed. Over those 2 years, we've had a lot of friends and a lot of fellow collectors and people on the show, and I think that I feel really fortunate to get to be a part of it, and I feel very fortunate to have garnished some relationships from the show, but also just continued to grow our hobby. So if you have listened or been on the show or listening now, thank you. And I look forward to 52 more. Pretty excited at some point that I'm going to get my 2-year anniversary gift, and I'll get one of those big boom mics like you guys so I can look really cool. Really just sincerely thankful for what the show is and to everybody who's come on. And I know we say it all the time, but please keep sending us suggestions for what we should do, and come on and be a part of the hobby. It's a lot of fun. So thank you guys, and thanks Doc for being the leader here of the show and doing what you do, because I know you put a lot of effort into it.
Hey, they don't call me Noise for nothing. So again, and I all your guys' support, Logan, you included, being a listener and now a guest, is we have and I actually ran the numbers. I meant to tell you guys before we started the show, and because we're spread out between everything, we've got decent followers, decent likes, and listens as of 2 hours ago was 12,181 across all our platforms. It doesn't sound like a lot. To me, it is a lot, because that's only 52 shows, and you spread that out. It shows that, again, with you being able to listen to it as a podcast, or when we first started this, it was YouTube only. I got to thinking about, because how much I listen to podcasts on Spotify. I'm like, well, this isn't that visual. We don't show that many things where you're going to miss it by listening to just audio. And when I moved it to audio too, our listens doubled overnight. Yeah. So we appreciate all the different ways people are using technology to listen to this. Like, subscribe, follow. If you listen on multiple things, or if you want to go to YouTube and you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast, go out there and just do the ratings, because I'd love to show up on a chart somewhere at some point. Not like we'll get the fancy YouTube plaque, because you have to have 100,000 followers. We won't ever hit that, but it's fun to see. And I try to go back, and some weeks I don't make it there right away. So if I do comment later, I apologize. I go into the YouTube comments and like or comment when people say stuff. Continue that. If you, again, like Wade said, if you have a thought on a subject you want us to cover, send that. If you'd like to come on with that subject, send that as well. Say, hey, you'd love to come on. It's not complicated. Need a webcam, and most laptops have a microphone, or you get a fancy boom mic like me or Logan has on his arm there, and it doesn't take much. We'd love to have you on, and this hobby is enjoyable. I always look forward to doing this every week. I know sometimes we have to miss for scheduling, but most of the weeks it'll be every single week. So we do appreciate that, and we're going to bang through some more shows. I know we've got some stuff scheduled already for next week, so that'll be around the corner. But again, thanks for the support, and continue to like, subscribe, all that stuff. We'll see you back next time, everybody.